On January 24th, 2019, at approximately 10:14 p.m., the State College Police Department was dispatched to report a person shot at the P.J. Harrigan's Bar, located at 1450 South Atherton Street. Officers arrived on scene at approximately 10:15 p.m. and found 3 gunshot victims in the area of the bar. Those victims were identified as Nicole Abrino, 21 years of age, Stephen Beachy, 19 years of age, and Dean Beachy, 61 years of age. Nicole Abrino sustained a chest wound and was transported to Mount Nittany Medical Center. Stephen Beachy was shot in the torso and was also transported to Mount Nittany Medical Center. They were later life-flighted to other medical facilities. Dean Beachy sustained a gunshot wound to the head and he died at the scene. We do have an update. As of 1 p.m. today, we were notified that Stephen Beachy passed away. The shooter was identified as Jordan Whitmer, 21 years of age, of Benner Township. It was learned that Jordan Whitmer and Nicole Abrino were at the bar together and were sitting on one side of the bar. Dean and Stephen Beachy were sitting at the other side of the bar across from Whitmer and Abrino. At one point, Whitmer got up from his bar seat, walked to the other side of the bar near the Beachys, where the Beachys were seated. We are still trying to determine what led Whitmer to pull out a handgun and begin shooting. After shooting all 3 victims, Whitmer fled the bar. While officers were attempting to locate Whitmer, Center County Emergency Communications Center reported a crash at the intersection of Wapelani Drive and Tussey Lane at approximately 10:46 p.m. Multiple officers responded to that location and found Jordan Whitmer's crashed vehicle that was unoccupied. Officers began an immediate canvass of the area attempting to locate Whitmer. At approximately 1:09 p.m., the State College Police Department was dispatched to 748 Tussey Lane for a reported burglary in progress with gunshots fired. Officers responded to that location and entered at approximately 11:14 p.m. Officers found Jordan Whitmer deceased in the living room with an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound to his head. Officers also found the resident of the home, identified as George McCormick, Mr. George McCormick, age 83 years of age, deceased with a gunshot wound to his head. Resident Joan McCormick, his wife, 80 years of age, was unharmed. Subsequent investigation revealed there is no relationship between the McCormicks and Jordan Whitmer. It is believed at this time he randomly chose their house after he crashed his vehicle. One other important to note was that he shot his way into the house. He shot a sliding glass door and kicked the door in, and that's how he entered. The State College Police Department was assisted by Center County Coroner Scott Sayers, the Ferguson Township Police Department, Patton Township Police Department, Penn State Police Department, and Center Life Lake Ambulance Services. All first responders are deeply saddened by these tragic events. Our hearts go out to the families and victims. This investigation continues, and we are urging anyone who may have information regarding this incident to contact the State College Police Department at 814-234-7150 by email or submit an anonymous tip through our website. We've also, with this press release, we've attached a timeline of events that will put it in sequential order so that it makes more sense to you. At this particular point in time, I want to address some certain issues that have come up about timeliness and warnings. I think what I want to stress more than anything with the public is that when officers are responding to events like this, they immediately are trying to respond safely. Once they get there, they're trying to assess a situation. They need to identify immediate threats, both not only to themselves, but other individuals in the immediate area. They have to triage injuries, render aid, and attempt to save lives. They need to obtain information from victims and witnesses. We need to be able to identify suspects and get that information from witnesses or victims themselves. But I want people to understand also, after doing all that, the first thing that the officers did was to put out information to all law enforcement officers in the center region, to include state police, a description of the individual, what had occurred, and to be on the lookout for him. One thing I want to also highlight is much of this information was already out on local TV or so due to social media and people tweeting and what have you. By the time I arrived on scene, much of this information was out by 11 o'clock. I got to the scene probably 11:15, 11:20. If there's one thing I think we, or myself in particular, as a police chief here, could have done better, it was to release information sooner that the threat had been eliminated. Unfortunately, you know, when we get caught up in this, we knew that there was no more threat to the public, and I wished if I could go back in hindsight and release that information sooner, that we could, so that the public wouldn't still be in a heightened state. So I take ownership for that. I want to make sure that you know that we were confident that there was no more threat to the community, but I take ownership for that. No immediate threats. There were no immediate threats to Penn State or its students. It was over before we could announce it or release any further information. And I would just like to say we relish our partnership with Penn State University, and we will continue to look for ways to improve our working relationships with them as we move forward, as we do with all of our partners.